Is the uncertain future of your HCI platform causing you difficulties? Perhaps things like the software prices jumping overnight, or leadership concern about maybe some vendor instability. Are you evaluating alternatives and you don't want to be locked into a specific platform? You need a long-term plan that gives the control back to you to decide the platform that you want to run when you want to run it. You need a flexible, no lock-in HCI platform that is future-proof. It needs to be resilient, flexible, and adaptable to your needs. Introducing Lenovo ThinkAgile FX, the industry's first multi-vendor HCI appliance, giving you all the benefits of a certified solution without the lock-in, effortless conversion when needed, and the simplicity with ease of procurement, deployment, monitoring, and management.
Now let's take a look at how all this works.
Now we'll take a look at a customer that is planning to start on VMware with eventual plans to move to Nutanix. Their FX server in this case will come pre-configured from the factory with VMware ESX installed on all of the servers, and once it is received, you will simply use the VCF installer to get up and running on VCF. So let's go ahead and log into the VCF installer, and we will go to the deployment wizard where we can choose whether or not we want to just do VVF or VCF. We'll go ahead and do VCF in this example here, and we're going to choose to deploy a new VCF fleet since this is the first time we have done this. We can use the existing VMware vCenter that we already have in our environment, or a new one can be set up. And then we simply just need to give this a name. And we need to give the Fleet Manager appliance, the VCF Ops appliance, and the Operations Collector appliance a username and password. So we'll just go ahead and keep those the same to keep things simple. In the next step, we're going to be able to set up VCF automation. So we'll have to give an FQDN for that appliance and a couple of IP addresses. Then we'll go ahead and give it our existing vCenter information. It'll create a certificate for security. We need to set up NSX, so that will also require an FQDN and a couple of passwords as well. And then we will put in our administrative password for SDDC Manager, and this will also be the same that we'll use for VCF Ops. It'll go ahead and run through a validation process. Once everything's been validated, we can go ahead and hit deploy. And once the deployment is done, we are ready to complete our setup. It was just that easy. Once our cluster is deployed, we are going to, of course, have to manage it throughout its life cycle. Lenovo is going to make that very easy to do with its Lenovo xClarity integrator. What we'll do here is we'll go ahead and manage the firmware packages that are available to us, and we will choose the latest repository pack that is available from Lenovo. This is what we call our Lenovo Best Recipes. This is a collection of the latest drivers and firmware that have been fully validated and tested by Lenovo to make sure that you have a seamless update process. So we need to go ahead and download that, and once it's done, we'll see here that we are ready to go. And we will come back here to our cluster, and we will go to the update section. At that point, what we need to do is we need to create an image. So let's go ahead and set that up. It'll go ahead and check the readiness of the cluster for us, and once that is set, we're going to choose a couple of things. We're going to have to choose the Lenovo vendor add-on that we're going to use here, which is this particular customization add-on. It'll have some details here of what components are included with that. And then we will choose the firmware and drivers add-on. So we'll choose the Lenovo xClarity integrator, and we'll be all set. At that point, we need to just go ahead and validate the cluster. And once it's been validated, we'll go ahead and save this image. As you can see here, it is checking the compliance of the cluster. Once that is good to go, we can go ahead and choose Finish Image Setup. And finally, we'll choose Start Remediation. What will happen here is it will go through one by one to each server, put that server into maintenance mode, reboot, apply all of the updates. Once that is done, it'll bring it out of maintenance mode, and it'll move on to the next one, and then the next one, finally at our last server here. And once that is done, you will see here now that we are fully compliant and we are good to go. Once the user is ready to convert their systems, they will go ahead and contact Lenovo. Now, these conversions can take place between any of the 3 offerings that we have, be it VMware, Nutanix, or Microsoft. But in this particular scenario, as mentioned, we're talking about a customer going from VMware to Nutanix. So now that they're ready to convert to Nutanix, they will contact Lenovo, and this will be led by our experts in the services field. They will go ahead and take care of making sure that all of the settings for the BMC, drivers, firmware versions, and everything is compatible with whatever system you are converting to, and then potentially install the operating system required onto your nodes. At that point, you will just simply treat them as if they were a factory pre-installed Nutanix system and go ahead and go through that process, which we will review here. Now that the conversion has taken place, we need to go ahead and deploy our new Nutanix cluster. We will use Nutanix Foundation to do this, which is really going to make this simple. Some of the first things that we need to do is go ahead and give it the subnet mask of all the CVMs as well as their gateway, and we'll do the same for the IPMI. The IPMI is going to be actually the IP address of your xClarity controller. Now we're ready to discover the nodes. It'll go ahead and scan the network, and it'll find all of the nodes that are available for us to deploy as part of this cluster. We're going to go ahead and choose all of them. We'll give them IPMI IPs, host IPs, as well as the cluster virtual machine IPs, and we will name the hosts. Next thing we need to do is just choose the versions of AOS that we want to go ahead and install here. This is the latest package available to us. We're not going to use any of the other items in this particular instance, and we need to go ahead and give the cluster a name. So we'll call this ThinkAgile HXTM. We'll give it a cluster virtual IP, and then we also have to give it our NTP servers. We could put multiple ones here with a comma, as well as our DNS servers. We are not going to go ahead and enable cluster lockdown for this demo, but that is certainly an option that will disallow SSH access to the CVMs. And now we need to go ahead and populate the username and password for the IPMI. Again, this is the XCC of your Lenovo ThinkAgile FX device. And this will be made very simple here. We just simply need to go ahead and choose fill with Lenovo defaults, and it'll go ahead and automatically put in the default credentials for that. Now, of course, if you've changed those, you will go ahead and need to put in your appropriate user ID and password. And at this point, the deployment is ready to start. So it'll first do the node imaging and configuration. It'll provision the networks, and we'll move on to the cluster formation. And then once we're finished, we are ready to complete the configuration. We'll go ahead and open up Prism. And what we need to do is we need to go ahead and deploy a new Prism Central instance. So we'll upload the Prism Central installation binary that we got from the support Nutanix site. This is the latest version available as of this recording. And then we need to choose the size of Prism Central that we want to do. I would only recommend extra small for demo environments. It will cause you to not be able to use some of the features of Prism Central, in which case you might want to choose small or larger. Once we've done that, it'll deploy Prism Central, and then as you can see here, Prism Central is ready to go, and our cluster is set up and running. Now that our ThinkAgile FX appliance has been fully converted and deployed, we are ready to manage our cluster. We are, of course, going to have to constantly update drivers and firmware throughout the lifecycle of the product. Nutanix and Lenovo make this extremely simple. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into the lifecycle management within our Prism element. And as you can see here, there are 16 updates available. There are going to be updates to the AHV and AOS software, which we'll go ahead and choose. And then there are going to be updates to the firmware from your ThinkAgile FX. This will again be maintained by Lenovo's best recipes, ensuring that all of these firmware and drivers are properly tested by Lenovo and Nutanix before we publish them to you. So we'll go ahead and choose all of these various firmware updates as well. And at this point, we can go ahead and view our upgrade plan. As you can see here, we're updating AOS, Foundation, NCC, as well as our HBA and XCC. You can see a little bit more details here, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. And now we will go ahead and apply all of the updates. This will go ahead and go through and bring each individual node into maintenance mode, reboot that node, install all the appropriate updates, and then the node will come back up and we will move on to the next one. As you can see here, it'll run a bunch of checks, download all of the updates, begin the update process, at which point we will finally be complete and we can return, and we will now see there are no longer any updates available. The cluster has been fully remediated. So that is Lenovo ThinkAgile FX, the industry's first multi-vendor HCI appliance. For more information, please scan the QR code below.